Well, hello and welcome to the Brian Hornback podcast. This is episode number 2. And before we get started, I want to encourage you to go check out my friend Stokes Nielsen. His podcast is Stokes and Friends, StokesandFriends, Friends. Stokes and Friends. You can find it on Apple, and you can on Apple Podcasts, and you can also find it on YouTube. Stokes Nielsen used to be with the Lost Trailers, singer-songwriter, and he has Stokes and Friends podcast. You can also find him on Instagram at Stokes, Stokesand, Friends, Friends, and on Twitter it's Stokes with the letter N, Friends, Friends. So go check out Stokes and Friends podcast. So this is Tuesday, November the 10th, and this is the second episode of the Brian Hornback podcast. And you may wonder, why is he wearing a plaid hat with the state of Tennessee? And I want to talk a little bit on this podcast about our United States Senator, Lamar Alexander. Obviously, as many of you that do know, and I talked about in the introduction, the fact that I've been involved in politics, I guess, for a better part of almost 4 decades. But one of my early remembrances is when Lamar Alexander walked across the state of Tennessee to become governor, and that was in the late 70s. He actually was elected, and I was able to attend as a young man his first inauguration. My parents were school bus contractors out in East Knox County. They provided a school bus for the county, and they hauled the Carter High School band to the first inauguration, and I was able to ride along. And so that was my first introduction to Lamar Alexander. And then obviously Lamar served for 8 years. He went on and then became the president of the University of Tennessee. And in 2002, while I was serving on the Knox County School Board, Lamar decided to run for the United States Senate. And during that campaign, he chose to visit one of the schools in my district, Cedar Bluff Middle School. And I was happy to take him around and introduce him to the faculty and staff of Cedar Bluff Middle School as he ran for the United States Senate. For several years, I went to Washington to advocate on behalf of public education in my role with the as a board of director of the Tennessee School Boards Association. And Lamar never lost the fact that he represented Tennessee, and he represented where he's from. And so a lot of my friends don't understand why, as a Christian conservative, that I didn't always, that I wasn't one of those that fell out with Lamar, because he's been perceived as somewhat of a moderate. Some would even call him a liberal. But for me, it was always a situation where I remembered him from when he ran for governor, and he's always been accessible to me. And I've appreciated that. And then when I became the Republican Party chairman from 2005 to 2007, every time that Lamar would come to Knoxville, Knox County, I would be there. And when he gets out of a car, he remembers me. And actually, just a few weeks ago, I went to what I thought was an event that was only I saw it on a media schedule for Governor Bill Lee. And I went out to Oak Ridge, and come to find out, not only was Bill Lee there, but Congressman Chuck Fleischman, our United States Senator Lamar Alexander, and the Secretary of the Department of Energy were there. And again, Lamar recognized me, and we were able to visit. And I guess the last time we were able to visit for any length of time was about a year ago, last September. He came in and was the keynote speaker at the government official and business leaders lunch at the Tennessee Valley Fair on the first day that the fair opened. And we went through the lunch line together. Had a picture made, and I was wearing a rather flashy paisley sport coat. And he actually said that he would like to wear that on the Senate floor. And I told him I'd let him borrow it, but, it'd swallow him up because I'm a bit of a bigger guy than he is. But that's what I've respected about Lamar. He's coming home to Blount County. He and Honey, his wife, are going to make their home over on West Miller's Cove in Blount County. And they're going to be back here with us as he retires. So last Tuesday, the man who's going to replace him, Bill Hagerty, won a significant a win against a Democrat opponent, Marquita Bradshaw. And I was able to see Ambassador Hagerty, now Senator-elect Bill Hagerty, a couple of times last week. Last Tuesday, he had a campaign event here on Election Day at Scrambled Jake's in Rocky Hill in West Knoxville, and had a packed crowd there for that. Former Governor Bill Haslam was there, and was able to visit with him briefly. And then obviously he went on to Bill Hagerty went on to win the U.S. Senate race that night, Tuesday night, and he was back here on Thursday, back in Knoxville on Thursday for a celebration lunch where many people from across East Tennessee came to help celebrate that win with Ambassador, now Senator-elect Bill Hagerty. I believe he's going to be a good conservative. He's going to complement and work with Marsha Blackburn very well, and looking forward to everything that Marsha Blackburn and Bill Hagerty are able to do, not only for Tennessee, but as well for our country. Now that we're almost at the halfway point, I do want to thank you for tuning in to the Brian Hornback podcast. I'm currently on Anchor FM, on Breaker, Google Podcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, Spotify, and of course right here on this YouTube channel. So I would encourage you to like, comment, share, and above all, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and be sure and follow us everywhere you can. I do want to encourage you to visit one of my advertisers, Matlock Tire. They have 5 locations where they started 3 generations ago in Lenoir City, Athens, Tennessee, Maryville, Tennessee, the new one in Hardin Valley, and of course the one that I like right here in the town of Farragut in West Knoxville. You can go to MatlockTireService.com and find their locations and their contact information. But if you need tires, if you need auto repair, whatever you need for your car and transportation, you can find it at Matlock Tire. So go tell Jimmy or Joe that Brian sent you, and I would appreciate that. So now let's turn for the last part of this podcast and talk about what's going on in Knox County. There's a lot of things going on. There was a meeting today, a committee on committees. It's an internal situation that the county commission has a lot of committees, and they're trying to determine, are they all legitimate working committees? The big thing has been going on for 3 months or so here in Knox County is obviously the COVID pandemic and public forum with the county commission. Tonight they had about 11 or 12 people signed up. People get 5 minutes each, and they all got heard. And the meeting was over before 7 p.m. tonight, which is kind of unusual. The last couple of months, they've been meeting and been going till midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. But tonight they got done rather quickly. It's a situation where when you sign up for public forum, you should get 5 minutes to speak. I think tensions were raw last month at the October meeting, and the chairman wanted to adjourn before he heard the last 6 people. And to say it was a mini riot is probably an understatement. But those folks, the other 10 commissioners, ensured that they stayed until those people were heard. And tonight was a little more civil. But again, we don't know for sure what's happening with the presidential election. We know, obviously, as I've already talked about, Bill Hagerty was elected Tuesday. Here locally, Tim Burchett was reelected overwhelmingly. Diana Harshbarger, the new Congresswoman-elect from the 1st District, was elected. And Republicans across all 8 congressional districts, were reelected, and Steve Cohen, the lone Democrat from Memphis, was reelected. And then, of course, locally, the Republicans all kept the state House seats, except for Gloria Johnson and Sam McKenzie, I should say, in districts 13 and 15. Those have been held by Democrats, Gloria Johnson and Sam McKenzie. The 14th district, Jason Zachary held on to that seat. In 16, Michelle Carringer was elected to replace Bill Dunn, and just today, Bill Dunn has picked up a job. He was only unemployed for 6 days. He picked up a job as a consultant with the Commissioner of Education. Was appointed by Governor Bill Lee. Bill Dunn's now got a job. He was unemployed for 6 days. And then in District 18, Eddie Manis clearly had Donald Trump coattails, which is kind of interesting if you follow that race in the primary, because if you look at the absentee votes, Virginia Couch had a pretty, about an 8 to 10% win on absentee votes. Eddie Manis had about an 8 to 10% lead on the early votes, and then on election day, it's what put Eddie Manis over the top, and he had a significant win. And most of those votes, if you look at Michelle Carringer's race, if you look at most of the races, you'll see that Trump had a significant, in Tennessee, election day bump. And so it's interesting that Eddie Manis would have really gotten that Donald Trump bump, but he did. In District 19, Dave Wright was unopposed. In District 89, Justin Lafferty was basically unopposed. He had an independent named Greg Mills that ran, but he also had a Democrat who ran as a write-in, and Carrie Keeling, and she came in with right at 763, a little less than 800 write-in votes. I think that's significant that you can get 800 people to write your name in, and it's easier now because of the fact that we're doing it on paper and pen, right? But I went through. If you'll check me out on brianhornback.com, I went through and wrote several stories over the weekend. It's a fun thing that I enjoy doing, and a lot of people tell me they enjoy reading it. Is after the elections, I'll go through and give a sampling of some of the write-in votes, and there were a lot of votes cast in Knox County last Tuesday, and so it took a while to go through all those images, but those stories are up on brianhornback.com. Would encourage you to go check those out. And then here in Knoxville, we had a couple of amendments, charter amendments for our form of government as a charter form of government. One was that the law director would be appointed by the county mayor instead of elected. There was actually a campaign, an organized campaign, to vote that down, and it was voted down 80%. Then there was another issue out there that was voted down slightly, and it has to do with the county mayor right now can sign any number of contracts under $100,000, and there's really no transparency. We don't know who those are to, what it's for, and so there was a charter amendment that he would have to tell the commission, just give them a list every month of these are the contracts that I signed, who it is, and what it's for. And that too got voted down by a smaller margin than the other amendment. But I'm hearing that there's some commissioners that might present an ordinance to kind of deal with that one. So we'll talk about that in future episodes. I really want to get into next podcast, which will come out on Friday. I really want to talk about these public forum changes that the county commission want to implement on next Monday night, a week from last night. And we're going to talk about that on Friday because I'm now over 15 minutes. I'm trying to keep this at 15 minutes. But we'll talk about that on Friday. So I want you to be sure and listen and be sure and follow along, brianhornback.com. Again, this is episode 2. Thanks for sticking with us, sticking with me to this point, and we'll see you again real soon.